Welcome back to Footnotes Folly and to Herodotus. I am Pemberton. This is part 36. The army marches up to Sardis and on to the Hellespont, and there Xerxes does the thing the Greeks would never forget. He bridges the sea, lashing hundreds of ships gunwale to gunwale into two great floating roads from Asia to Europe. The first bridges are smashed by a storm, and Xerxes, in a rage, has the water given 300 lashes and a pair of fetters thrown in. The bridges are rebuilt, and at Abydos he sits on a marble throne to watch his whole numberless host and suddenly weeps for the shortness of human life. Then the army crosses, and crosses, for 7 days and 7 nights without a pause. Let us continue.
While these men were working at the task assigned to them, the whole land army had been gathered together and was marching with Xerxes to Sardis, setting out from Critola in Cappadocia. There it had been ordered that the whole army should assemble, the army that was to go with Xerxes himself by land. Which of the provincial governors brought the best equipped force and received from the king the gifts that had been proposed, I cannot say, for I do not know that they even came to a competition in this matter. After crossing the river Halys and entering Phrygia, they marched through that land and came to Polymnia, where the springs of the river Maeander rise, and also the springs of another river, not smaller than the Maeander, whose name is Cataractes. This river rises in the very marketplace of Polymnia and runs into the Maeander. In this city also there hangs the skin of Marsyas the Selenos, which the Phrygians say was flayed off and hung up by Apollo. In this city Pythios son of Aetes, a Lydian, was waiting for the king. He entertained the whole army, and Xerxes himself, with the most magnificent hospitality, and he also declared himself ready to provide money for the war. When Pythios offered money, Xerxes asked the Persians who were present who Pythios was, and how much money he possessed, that he made such an offer. They answered, O king, this is the man who presented your father Darius with the golden plane tree and the golden vine, and even now in wealth he is the first of all men whom we know except only you. O king, I will not hide the truth from you, nor will I pretend as an excuse that I do not know my own substance. I will reckon it out for you exactly, since I know the truth. As soon as I heard that you were coming down to the Sea of Hellas, I wanted to give you money for the war, and so I found out the exact amount. By calculation, I discovered that I had 2,000 talents of silver, and of gold 400 myriads of Daric staters, all but 7,000. This money I present to you. For myself I have a sufficient livelihood for my slaves and for my estates of land. Lydian host, ever since I went out from the Persian land, I have met no man until now who desired to entertain my army, or who came into my presence and offered of his own free will to contribute money to me for the war, except only you. You have not only entertained my army magnificently, but now you also offer great sums of money. Therefore I give you these rewards in return. I make you my guest friend, and I will complete for you the 400 myriads of staters by giving the 7,000 for myself, so that your 400 myriads may not fall short by 7,000, but you may have the full sum in your reckoning, completed by me. Keep possession of what you have acquired for yourself, and be sure always to act in this way. If you do so, you will have no cause to repent either now or afterward. After saying this and carrying out his promise, Xerxes continued his march onward. Passing by a Phrygian city called Enna, and by a lake from which salt is obtained, he came to Colossae, a great city of Phrygia, where the river Lycos falls into an opening in the earth and disappears from sight. Then after an interval of about 5 furlongs, it comes into view again, and this river too flows into the Maeander. Setting out from Colossae toward the borders of the Phrygians and Lydians, the army arrived at the city of Cadrera, where a pillar is fixed, set up by Croesus, which declares by an inscription that the boundaries are there. From Phrygia Xerxes entered Lydia. Here the road divides in two. The road to the left leads toward Caria, while the road to the right leads to Sardis. Anyone traveling by this latter road must cross the river Maeander and pass by the city of Calatibos, where men live whose trade is to make honey from the tamarisk tree and wheat flour. Xerxes went by this road and found a plane tree, which he adorned with gold because of its beauty, and he appointed someone to have charge of it forever in undying succession. On the next day he came to the city of the Lydians. When Xerxes came to Sardis, he first sent heralds to Hellas to ask for earth and water, and also to give advance notice that meals should be prepared for the king. He did not send to Athens or Lacedaemon to ask for earth, but he sent to all the other states. The reason he sent a second time to ask for earth and water was this: as many as had not given it before, when Darius sent, he thought would certainly give now because of fear. He wished to have certain knowledge about this matter, and so he sent. After this he made his preparations, intending to march to Abydos. Meanwhile they were bridging the Hellespont from Asia to Europe. In the Chersonese of the Hellespont, between the city of Sestos and Miditos, there is a broad foreland running down into the sea directly opposite Abydos. This is the place where, not long afterward, the Athenians under the command of Xanthippus son of Ariphron took Artax, a Persian who was the governor of Sestos, and nailed him alive to a board with his hands and feet stretched out. He was the man who used to take women with him to the temple of Protesilaus at Elaeus and do things there that are not lawful. Those on whom this work had been laid were making their bridges to this foreland, starting from Abydos. The Phoenicians were constructing one bridge with ropes of white flax, and the Egyptians the other with papyrus rope. The distance from Abydos to the opposite shore is 7 furlongs. But when the strait had been bridged over, a great storm came on, dashed together all the work that had been made, and broke it apart. When Xerxes heard this, he was exceedingly enraged. He ordered them to scourge the Hellespont with 300 strokes of the lash, and to let down a pair of fetters into the sea. Indeed, I have heard further, that he also sent branders with them to brand the Hellespont. However that may be, he commanded them, as they beat it, to speak these barbarian and presumptuous words: "Bitter water, your master lays this penalty upon you because you wronged him, though you had suffered no wrong from him. Xerxes the king will pass over you whether you are willing or not, and with justice, it seems, no man sacrifices to you, since you are a treacherous and briny stream." He ordered them to chastise the sea in this way, and he also commanded that the heads be cut off from those who had been appointed to oversee the bridging of the Hellespont. The men to whom this thankless duty belonged did as they were ordered, while other master builders proceeded to make the bridges. They made them in this way. They put together 50-oared galleys and triremes, 360 under the bridge toward the Euxine Sea, and 314 under the other. The vessels lay in the direction of the current of the Hellespont, though crosswise in relation to the Pontus, so as to support the strain of the ropes. Having placed them together in this way, they let down very large anchors, those on one side toward the Pontus because of the winds that blow from within outward, and those on the other side toward the west, and the Aegean because of the southeast and south winds. They also left an opening for passage through, so that anyone who wished could sail into the Pontus with small vessels, and also out from the Pontus. After doing this, they stretched the ropes tight, straining them with wooden windlasses. They no longer assigned the 2 kinds of rope to be used separately, but gave to each bridge 2 ropes of white flax and 4 of papyrus. The thickness and beauty of workmanship were the same in both kinds, but the flaxen ropes were heavier in proportion, and of this rope a cubit weighed 1 talent. When the passage had been bridged, they sawed up logs of wood, made them equal in length to the width of the bridge, laid them above the stretched ropes, and after setting them in order, fastened them down again above. When this was done, they carried on brushwood, set the brushwood also in place, and carried earth onto it. After they had stamped the earth down firmly, they built a barrier along each side, so that the baggage animals and horses would not be frightened by looking out over the sea. When the construction of the bridges had been finished, and when the works around Athos were reported fully complete, both the embankments at the mouths of the channel, which had been made because the sea broke on the beach so that the mouths would not be filled up, and the channel itself, the army set out from Sardis after spending the winter there. Fully equipped at the beginning of spring, it marched toward Abydos. Just as it had set out, the sun left its place in the heaven and became invisible, although there was no gathering of clouds, and the sky was perfectly clear. Instead of day, it became night. When Xerxes saw and perceived this, it troubled him, and he asked the Magians what the appearance meant to portend. They declared that the god was foreshowing to the Hellenes the leaving of their cities, saying that the sun was the foreshower of events for the Hellenes, but the moon for the Persians. After being told this, Xerxes continued the march with very great joy. As he was leading his army out on the march, Paetheos the Lydian, alarmed by the appearance in the heavens and elated by the gifts he had received, came to Xerxes and said, "Master, I wish to receive from you one thing at my request, which happens to be easy for you to grant, but a great thing for me if I obtain it." Xerxes, thinking that his request would be for anything rather than what he actually asked, said that he would grant it and told him to speak and say what he desired. Encouraged when he heard this, Paetheos said, "Master, I have, as it happens, 5 sons, and it is their fortune that all of them are going with you on the march against Hellas. Therefore, O king, have compassion on me, who have reached so great an age, and release one of my sons from serving in the expedition, the eldest, so that he may be caretaker both of me and of my wealth. Take the other 4 with you, and after you have accomplished what you have in mind, may you have a safe return home." Then Xerxes became exceedingly angry and answered, "You wretched man, do you dare, when I myself am going on a march against Hellas, and am taking my sons, my brothers, my relatives, and my friends, to make any mention of a son of yours? You are my slave, and you ought to have accompanied me yourself with your whole household and your wife as well. Now be assured of this: the passionate spirit of man dwells within the ears. When it hears good things, it fills the body with delight, but when it hears the opposite, it swells up with anger. Since you cannot boast that you surpassed the king in conferring benefits before, when you did good deeds to us and offered to do more of the same kind, so now, when you have turned to shamelessness, you shall receive not what you deserve, but less than you deserve. Your hospitality shall save you and 4 of your sons from death, but you shall pay the penalty with the life of the one to whom you cling most." Having answered in this way, he immediately commanded those appointed to such tasks to find the eldest of Paetheos' sons, cut him in 2 through the middle, place one half on the right side of the road and the other on the left, and have the army pass between them by that way. After this had been done, the army began to pass between the 2 halves. First the baggage-bearers led the way with their horses, and after them came the host made up of all kinds of nations, mingled together without distinction. When more than half had gone by, a space was left, separating these troops from the king. Before Xerxes there went first 1,000 horsemen chosen from all the Persians. After them came 1,000 spearmen, also chosen from all the Persians, with the points of their spears turned down toward the ground. Then came 10 sacred horses, called Nesaeon, with the finest possible trappings. The horses are called Nesaeon for this reason. In the land of Media there is a broad plain called the Nesaeon plain, and this plain produces the great horses of which I speak. Behind these 10 horses was appointed to go the sacred chariot of Zeus, drawn by 8 white horses, and behind the horses again followed a charioteer on foot, holding the reins, for no human creature mounts the seat of that chariot. Behind this came Xerxes himself in a chariot drawn by Nesaeon horses, and beside him rode a charioteer named Pateramphs, son of Atanes, a Persian. In this way Xerxes marched out of Sardis, and whenever he felt inclined, he used to change from the chariot to a carriage. Behind him went spearmen, the best and noblest of the Persians, 1,000 in number, holding their spear points in the customary way. After them came another 1,000 horsemen chosen from the Persians, and after the horsemen came 10,000 men chosen from the rest of the Persians. This body went on foot. Of these men, 1,000 had golden pomegranates on their spears instead of the spikes at the butt end, and these 1,000 enclosed the others around them. The remaining 9,000 were inside them, and had silver pomegranates. Those who had their spear points turned toward the earth also had golden pomegranates, while those who followed next after Xerxes had golden apples. After the 10,000, a body of 10,000 Persian cavalry was appointed to follow, and after the cavalry there was an interval of about 2 furlongs. Then the rest of the host came marching without distinction. So the army marched from Lydia to the river Caicos and the land of Mysia. Then, setting out from the Caicos and keeping the mountain of Cane on the left, it marched through the region of Atarneus to the city of Cairn. From there it went through the plain of Thebe, passing by the cities of Adramyttan and Antandros of the Pelasgians, and taking Mount Ida on the left, it came on to the land of Ilion. First, when it had stopped for the night close under Mount Ida, thunder and lightning bolts fell upon it, and destroyed a very large number of men there. Then the army came to the river Scamander. Of all the rivers they had reached since setting out from Sardis and beginning their march, this was the first whose stream failed, and was not sufficient for the drinking needs of the army and the animals with it. When Xerxes came to this river, he went up to the citadel of Priam, because he desired to see it. After seeing it and learning by inquiry about each of those matters, he sacrificed 1,000 heifers to Athene of Ilion, and the Magians poured libations in honor of the heroes. After they had done this, fear fell upon the army in the night. At daybreak he set out from there, keeping on his left the cities of Rhoetean, of Phrynion, and Dardanos, the last of which borders on Abydos, and having on his right the Gergitocreans. When Xerxes had come into the middle of Abydos, he wished to see the whole army. A raised seat of white stone had purposely been made for him beforehand on a hill there, built by the people of Abydos at the king's prior command. He took a seat there, and looking down upon the shore, he gazed at both the land army and the ships. As he looked at them, he longed to see a contest take place between the ships. When it was held and the Phoenicians of Sidon were victorious, he was delighted both with the contest and with the whole armament. Seeing all the Hellespont covered with ships, and all the shores and plains of Abydos full of men, Xerxes declared himself a happy man, and after that he began to weep. "O king, how far apart from one another are the things you have done now and a short while ago. For after declaring yourself a happy man, you are now shedding tears." Yes. After I reckoned it up, it came into my mind to feel pity at the thought of how brief the whole life of man is, since of these multitudes not one will be alive when 100 years have passed. In the course of our life we are subject to another evil more pitiable than this. In the span of life, short as it is, no man, either among these here or among others, is by nature made so happy that there will not come to him many times, and not only once, a desire to be dead rather than alive. Misfortunes falling upon us, and diseases disturbing our happiness, make the time of life, though truly short, seem long. Thus, because life is full of trouble, death has become the most acceptable refuge for man, and God, after giving man a taste of the sweetness of life, is found in this matter to be full of jealousy. Artabanus, let us stop speaking of human life, since it is such as you describe, and let us not remember evils when we have good things in hand. But tell me this, if the vision of the dream had not appeared so clearly, would you still be holding your former opinion and trying to prevent me from marching against Hellas, or would you have changed from it? Come, tell me this exactly. O king, may the vision of the dream that appeared have the fulfillment we both desire. Yet even now I am full of apprehension and cannot restrain myself, taking many things into account, and also seeing that 2 things, the greatest of all, are utterly hostile to you. Xerxes answered, "Strangest of men, what are these 2 things that you say are utterly hostile to me? Is the land army to be faulted for its numbers, and does the army of the Hellenes seem likely to you to be many times as large as ours? Or do you think our fleet will fall short of theirs? Or even that both of these things together will prove true? If you think our power is deficient in these respects, another force could be gathered at once." Artabanus replied, "O king, no one who has understanding would find fault with this army, or with the number of ships. Indeed, if you assemble more, the 2 things of which I speak will be made still more hostile. These 2 things are the land and the sea. In the sea, as I suppose, there is nowhere a harbor large enough to receive this fleet of yours if a storm should arise, and to ensure the ship's safety until it is over. Yet there ought to be not only one such harbor, but such harbors all along the coast of the continent by which you sail. If there are no harbors to receive your ships, know that accidents will rule men, and not men the accidents. Now that I have told you of one of the two things, I am about to tell you of the other. The land becomes hostile to you in this way. If nothing comes to oppose you, the land is hostile to you all the more in proportion as you advance farther, always stealing on farther and farther, for men feel no satiety of good fortune. What I mean is this: with no one standing against you, the country you traverse, growing greater and greater as time goes on, will produce famine for you. A man will be in the best condition if, when taking counsel, he feels fear and reckons on suffering everything that can possibly come, but when doing the deed he is bold. Xerxes answered, Artabanus, you set these matters out reasonably, but do not fear everything or reckon everything equally. If in every matter that comes on at any time, you set yourself to reckon everything equally, you would never do anything. It is better to have courage about everything and suffer half the evils that threaten than to fear everything beforehand and suffer no evil at all. And if, while opposing everything that is said, you fail to declare the safe course, then you incur the charge of failure in these matters just as much as the man who says the opposite. This, I say, is evenly balanced. But how can a mere human being know the safe course? I think he cannot. To those who choose to act, gain usually comes. To those who reckon everything and shrink back, it does not often come. You see to what great power the Persian might has advanced. If the kings before me had held opinions like yours, or even if they did not hold them, had counselors like you, you would never have seen it brought to this point. As it is, by running risks they brought it forward to this. Great power is generally gained by running great risks. We therefore, following their example, are making our march now in the fairest season of the year, and after we have subdued all Europe, we shall return home, neither having met famine anywhere nor having suffered anything else unpleasant. First, we ourselves march carrying a great store of food with us, and second, we shall possess the grain crops of all the peoples to whose land and nation we come. We are now marching against men who plow the soil, not against nomad tribes. After this Artabanus said, O king, since you urge us not to fear anything, please accept one counsel from me, for when speaking of many things, speech must be extended to greater length. Cyrus son of Cambyses subdued all Ionia except the Athenians, so that it became tributary to the Persians. Therefore I counsel you by no means to lead these men against their parent stock, since even without them we are able to gain the advantage over our enemies. If they go with us, either they must prove themselves doers of great wrong, if they join in reducing their mother city to slavery, or doers of great right, if they join in freeing her. If they prove doers of great wrong, they bring us no very large gain in addition, but if they prove doers of great right, they are then able to do much damage to your army. Therefore lay to heart also the ancient saying, how well it has been said, that at the first beginning of things the end does not completely appear. Xerxes answered, Artabanus, of all the opinions you have uttered, you are most mistaken in this one, since you fear that the Ionians may change sides. We have the surest proof concerning them, and you yourself are witness of it, as are the rest who wed with Darius on his march against the Scythians. The whole Persian army then came to depend on these men, whether they would destroy it or save it, and they showed righteous dealing and trustworthiness, and nothing at all unfriendly. Besides this, since they have left children, wives, and wealth in our land, we must not even imagine that they will make any rebellion. So do not fear this either, but take heart and keep my house and my government safe, for to you of all men I entrust my scepter of rule. After speaking in this way, and sending Artabanus back to Susa, Xerxes next summoned into his presence the most distinguished men among the Persians. When they had come before him, he spoke to them. Persians, I have assembled you because I desire this from you, that you show yourselves to be good men, and that you do not disgrace the deeds done in former times by the Persians, deeds that are great and glorious. Let each one of us by himself, and all of us together as well, be zealous in our enterprise, for the thing we are laboring for is a common good for all. I urge you to persevere in the war without relaxing your efforts, because, as I am informed, we are marching against good men, and if we overcome them, there will be no other army of men that will ever stand against us. Now therefore let us begin the crossing, after praying to those gods who have the Persians as their allotted charge. During that day they made preparations to cross over. On the next day they waited for the sun, desiring to see him rise, and meanwhile they offered every kind of incense upon the bridges and strewed the way with branches of myrtle. As the sun was rising, Xerxes poured a libation from a golden cup into the sea and prayed to the sun that no accident might happen to him that would cause him to stop subduing Europe before he had reached its furthest limits. After praying in this way, he threw the cup into the Hellespont, and with it a golden mixing bowl and a Persian sword, which they call an echinix. But whether he cast these into the sea as an offering dedicated to the sun, or whether he had repented of scourging the Hellespont and wished to give a gift to the sea as amends for this, I cannot say for certain. When Xerxes had done this, they began to cross. The whole army, both foot soldiers and horsemen, went by one bridge, the one on the side of the Pontus, while the baggage animals and the attendants went over the other, the one toward the Aegean. First the 10,000 Persians led the way, all wearing wreaths. After them came the mixed body of the army, made up of every kind of nation. These crossed on that day. On the next day, first came the horsemen, and those who had their spear points turned downward, these also wearing wreaths. After them came the sacred horses and the sacred chariot, then Xerxes himself, the spear-bearers, and the 1,000 horsemen. After them came the rest of the army. Meanwhile the ships also put out from shore and went over to the opposite side. I have heard, however, another account, which says that the king crossed over last of all. When Xerxes had crossed over into Europe, he watched the army crossing under the lash. His army crossed over in 7 days and 7 nights, going continuously without any pause. Then it is said, after Xerxes had now crossed the Hellespont, a man of that coast exclaimed, "Why, O Zeus, have you taken the likeness of a Persian man and the name of Xerxes instead of Zeus, and why are you proposing to lay waste Hellas, taking all the nations of men with you? You could have done this even without their help."
And we will halt there, with the last of the host stepping off the bridges onto European soil, and all Greece now lying open before it. Next time, in part 37, Herodotus does something only he would dare. He stops the war entirely to count the army, nation by nation, dress by dress, weapon by weapon, the most extraordinary catalogue in all of ancient writing. Mind the footnotes, and beware the folly.